Good evening. Good evening to our viewing audience, and of course, those of us who are here tonight. We certainly welcome you in the precious name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I'm humbled that we have this opportunity to host this particular forum. We have a very important election in front of us on May the 1st, and so I want to thank Pastor Jones, the president of the Baptist Ministers Union, for allowing St. John to host tonight. So we're grateful to Pastor Jones. Certainly want to welcome our candidates to St. John tonight, as well as the community. So look, there are two things that's important about tonight. One, we want to hear from the candidates, right? We want to hear from the candidates. We want to make sure that what they have to say about the future of San Antonio, that we are part of that conversation and that future. And then number two, I think it's important that no one running for office these days sleep on the black church, the black community. I think we still are game changers when it comes to voting. We saw what happened in the national election just months ago. And so we are hoping that allowing the candidates to come here tonight is a subliminal message. It's a reminder that the black community is still significant, and we woke. Amen, and we woke. Let me have a word of prayer. God, how we thank you tonight, how we praise you, how we magnify you, how we lift you up. We give you praise, we give you glory and honor. It all belongs to you. Now, God, we pray that you would just, again, forgive us for all of our sins, our shortcomings. We pray, God, that nothing about us tonight would hinder us tonight from you kissing this moment, blessing this moment. We thank you, God, and again, for the privilege it is to serve you as well as humanity. And so we pray, God, that you would just have your will and have your way tonight in our time together. We pray that you would just guide our candidates tonight, that you would give them the presence of mind and free tonight to share with the community the future that they see for San Antonio. We'll be careful to give you praise and give you glory, for it's in Jesus' name we pray. We too thank you. Amen. Amen. Now it's my pleasure to turn things over to Joe Millhouse. Joe Millhouse is a bad man. He's a bad man, and I'm humbled, I'm honored to be his pastor. Amen. He's the kind of member you want to have before you go to heaven. You want to say, Lord, thank you for Joe Millhouse. And so I'm going to give thanks to Joe tonight and his team, and we're in for a wonderful experience tonight. Thank you again for coming, those of you who are here present with us tonight, and to our viewing audience, thank you so much. And hey, tell somebody to join us tonight.
Well, thank you, Pastor Price, for that introduction. The reason why he probably said this is Joe Millhouse, somebody needs to be in your church before, I go to heaven, because I definitely need some Jesus in my life. So definitely do appreciate you as my pastor and my mentor. And once again, to Pastor Jones, thank you for setting this up with the Baptist Minister Union. And of course, thank you to all of our candidates, of course, incumbent Mayor Ron Nirenberg, as well as the challenger, Greg Brockhouse, and challenger John Valasquez. But most importantly, once again, to reiterate what my pastor just got through saying, thank you all for being here in attendance with us. And those who are watching online, there is nothing more important today than your local politics, because this is where you affect the change that you want to see in your community. So thank you all for being a part of this, and we hope and pray that you're sharing this with people within the community. So to begin our first candidate, we're going to be starting with our incumbent, Mayor Ron Nirenberg. And so our format for today will be 5 questions that have already been pre-selected for all 3 candidates. But we will be taking one question from the live feed. So for those who are at home, please, or streaming elsewhere, please, by all means, join us in this conversation. We will be presenting that question from our timekeeper. And the way that we're setting this up, this is not going to be your traditional debate. So we're not going to be going back and forth. We want this to be an effective dialogue as well as effective communication. That way everyone in the community is aware as to what we are discussing. So without further ado, we welcome to the stage today our incumbent Mayor Ron Nirenberg. Please, applause.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, good evening.
Pleasure to join you. Good to be back in St. John's.
Absolutely, sir, and thank you for joining us today. So just jumping right into this, my first question for you, sir, is if reelected, what are going to be your focus for your accomplishments for your first 90 days? What are going to be the first things you're going to focus on within your first 90 days, sir?
So if I'm honored to continue my service as mayor of San Antonio, we want to continue the work. Number one, we have to ensure that we have a healthy community. So we have to come out of this pandemic first and foremost with the health and safety of our community and finally putting an end to COVID-19 in our community. Second, we have to continue to deal with the economic impacts of COVID-19 and the impacts it's had for our small business community, to our economy in general, and continue to bring our business community and our economy back to life after COVID-19. Finally, we have to ensure that we have healthy opportunities in our city. I'm very proud of the work that we've done to create pathways to educational access through programs like Alamo Promise and through our workforce development program. For our city to thrive long term, we have to ensure that everyone in this community has a healthy opportunity to thrive in this city.
Thank you for that answer, sir. And so you mentioned COVID. So what is going to be your strategy in order to get all the citizens and individuals in San Antonio vaccinated as soon as possible, sir?
Well, that has been a challenge, as you know, but we have been working very hard to make sure that we get adequate doses in our community. Since we started this process, the judge and I have been making our voices heard that San Antonio needs more of the distribution from the federal and state level. However, with regard to the vaccines that we have been able to get, we are distributing those through 4 mass vaccination hubs that will continue to the extent that we continue to have doses distributed to our mass vaccination hubs at the Alamo Dome, WellMed, the 2 senior centers, as well as through Wonderland Mall. In addition to that, we have been focused on equitable distribution through various means. First, ensuring that it doesn't require internet access to schedule an appointment, so we have been allocating doses available for seniors and others who don't have internet access to schedule appointments through phone. We've also been doing programs like going door to door. We were the first city in the country to begin a homebound senior vaccination process in which we are partnered with the San Antonio Food Bank and Meals on Wheels and San Antonio Housing Authority to bring vaccinations to homebound seniors during their meal scheduled deliveries. So we're going to continue to work through every method possible to take vaccine to our community where they are and not just require folks to register to appointments. But the success of our vaccination efforts ultimately will depend on the increased production and distribution to local communities like ours.
Thank you for that answer, sir. Now, continuing, kind of pivoting slightly to education side. So what is your plan to address the academic loss San Antonio students in grades K through 12 have experienced as a result of COVID?
Well, that is, so the COVID slide, as they're calling it, is a devastating byproduct of the pandemic, and I think we're not going to fully realize what the impacts are for several years. But we are seeing them immediately, and I can tell you that as a father with a son in grade school, that the impact in the home environment as well as in the academic environment is real. What we should do and what we will continue to do is make sure that there's access to broadband internet as well as other resources to help bridge the gap for educational access in the COVID era. And then as we get out of COVID and into a more normal school environment, we are working on and ensuring that schools have the adequate resources to bring students back safely. Working with our school districts, having access to equipment and resources such as PPE so that schools can conduct classes safely. And then finally, the work that we're doing at the legislature. I was very proud that this city council for the last 4 years has made our school districts part of our legislative team. So we are fighting for public schools at the legislature, in particular making sure that our legislature fully funds public schools. We know we are in a budget restricted environment coming out of the pandemic at the state level, and we have to make sure that one of the consequences of that is not public school funding. So we're going to be working really hard with our local state delegation to ensure that they protect school funding and that they make the priorities of our public schools a priority in the budget environment.
Thank you, sir. Now, transitioning to the most recent events that's impacted San Antonio, the winter storm. What is your plan to ensure that the people of San Antonio do not experience another water outage due to severe weather, or power outage as well?
Yeah. I put together a committee led by Reed Williams that is looking at and investigating the preparedness, the communications, and the response to the winter event. They are going to give recommendations to CPS, to SAWS, and City Emergency Management Team to address gaps within our own emergency response. What I believe you will find is that we have to resource communications as well as winterization of our energy grid. But what we are seeing, and what I think is clear, is that this event was triggered by an outrageous collapse of our state energy grid and a mismanagement of that process at ERCOT. So what we are doing is that we're seeking redress from our public utility regulators through the gas companies that price gouged to the market, and making sure that our community here in San Antonio, residents, ratepayers, and across Texas are not footing the bill for what was a historic energy collapse and market failure in Texas.
Thank you for that, sir. So now, moving to another topic that's going to be on the ballot in May. Where do you stand, as much as you can share with us, with Proposition B?
Sure. As mayor, my job is to ensure that there is an environment for good faith bargaining, and we are in the midst of a collective bargaining agreement right now. What I have committed and what I am committed to is reform in the police contract with regard to transparency and disciplinary measures. Our police chief has to have the executive ability to weed out bad cops who are found in misconduct. He lacks that ability, and that's what we are trying to negotiate into the contract. In addition to that, we need transparency measures so that in the disciplinary process, those who are adjudicating that can have access to the full records that would allow for that process to be done fairly. Those are the measures that have been clear as day, have been consistently put out, and have been publicly discussed. That is what the public wants to see in the negotiation, and in order for that to be done in good faith, we have to maintain good faith negotiations. So I am not getting involved in the Proposition B campaigns. My job is to make sure that good faith bargaining can take place and it achieves the objectives that the public wants us to.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that clarification. Now, this is going to be the question that I was just provided from the live feed here. Currently, when we're looking at the entire country, and this can boil down to the city as well, we're looking for equal representation. So currently, when we're looking at a representation of Black as well as Asian representation within the San Antonio Housing Authority Board, these are positions that are appointed by the mayor. What is your plan to address the equal representation in these mayoral appointments, sir?
What I have done is make sure that, number one, we find the best qualified people we can during the application process, but that as we go out for appointments, that they're widely distributed, that we advertise these kinds of appointments and opportunities to the entire community. And in the process of seeking candidates, that the candidate pool is representative of the San Antonio public, making sure that we have representation in race, representation in gender, representation in sexual orientation, representation in the cases of professional boards, different industries and labor, et cetera. What we need to make sure is that the candidate pools that come before the council to select for boards and commissions are representative of the entire San Antonio public, and from that pool we select the best qualified folks to represent the community.
Thank you, sir. Now, that concludes the questions that we had. So we'll now turn the floor over to you, sir. You'll have 1 minute to have any closing remarks, sir.
Sure, thank you. Well, thank you to the Baptist Ministers Union, to the St. John's Baptist congregation for allowing us to use your facility. To Reverend Price, thank you for having us here. It has been my honor and privilege to serve this community as a councilman and now as mayor of San Antonio. I know that we have been through an extraordinarily challenging time as a city, just as every city in the country and perhaps the world has. We have seen some trying times. I will tell you that based on my conversations I have with peers across the country, which I have nearly every single day, it is through the San Antonio spirit and collaboration, through the work that we've done together to create pathways to education, to make sure that we're focusing first on healthy communities and healthy opportunities for us all, on equity and resiliency, that I am convinced, as I'm sure you will be, that this city is poised as any city in the country to come back stronger, more resilient, and more equitable as a result. I'm honored to be your mayor. I'm proud and privileged to be a resident of the city. I'm asking for your support and your vote so I can continue my service as mayor of San Antonio. Thank you all very much.
Thanks so much.
Be sure to give them time between the next candidate to go clean the microphone.
Yep.
That's what they just told me.
The culture of what happens downtown. We have 10 individual council members operating on 10 individual strategies, and a mayor that's off by himself, working in a very insular manner, right? Not working with a team. And I've noticed that from my time on the San Antonio City Council, that team atmosphere, that ability to work towards one common goal, not common belief, right? We don't have to all believe the same things district by district, because we know this. Every individual district has something special about itself, and it requires something different than the other 9 districts. So I think we lack a teamwork mentality and an all-in approach that comes from the leadership in the mayor's office. And the mayor sets the tone. It's one of 11 votes. But that pulpit, that opportunity, the bully pulpit, to be able to speak and lead a vision forward for our city is what's tremendous. And I think we need that hope again in San Antonio. And I understand we've had this struggle for 12 months, and it's been difficult. Last month we had a winter storm that nearly tore us apart as a city. Lives lost, frozen to death. Challenges everywhere. Now more than ever, we need that leadership that comes from that family environment, that teamwork of City Hall, from our faith as a community and the things we're built on. And then we go to work each and every day. I think we have to pour our heart and soul into being in every district, on the streets, out of City Hall, and in the community, finding out where all those problems, opportunities, and issues are. So I would bring immediately a teamwork mentality to it that feeds each and every district. We go by what each district requires. We build a plan that tells our city, this is who we are individually as a community, district by district, but more importantly, this is where we're going forward in the future. This is how we're going to recover, and recover now, not 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. People need jobs, opportunity, and family health immediately, and I think you bring that energy to City Hall, and that's what I do on day one.
Thank you for that answer, sir. So now, kind of keeping that same seat, right? So if you were mayor, what would your strategy be to get everyone vaccinated within the city?
Well, I think we have to be honest with the failures of the vaccine rollout program from the beginning. Two key points. Number one, we rolled out the vaccine program on an online system when 30 to 40% of our residents do not have internet access. We rolled it out on a 311 phone system where the system collapsed and was overloaded with calls. We've built a system at City Hall. I've been on the inside as a council member as well as on the outside as a citizen. We've built a system at City Hall where the entire machine requires you to get to them. Think about it for a second. Think about it. You have to do all the work to get to them. I would have done the exact opposite. I would have rolled out an immediate vaccine registry. I think it's an abomination that we do not have a vaccine registry. Every major city in Texas has one, and it's successful because it provides a level of hope that I am in line and my opportunity is coming. And it prevents things like foreign nationals, wealthy people, skipping the line at the Alamo Dome, as reported by News 4, and getting their vaccines out of turn. People who aren't even part of our country getting vaccines. So a registry, we should have done that immediately. Then we take and we roll out, and I'm talking a shock and awe plan of going to every senior facility and assisted living center, every frontline worker, and every opportunity we have for first responder. We still don't have all three of those categories fully vaccinated. And we didn't adhere to those strategies because we didn't register appropriately. My parents, for instance, were making well over 1,000 phone calls to try to get a vaccine. It took them months. So we should have stood up a call center. San Antonio, we have employment issues right now in call centers. We should have stood up a call center. We have all the data and information to call and text you directly to get you set up. We shouldn't have put it on you to do the heavy lifting, especially when our community is facing something that now at this point has affected every one of us at every corner of our city. So we should have gone to you. That's the major change and shift. And I think you got to come overwhelming to people's doors and offer them the vaccine. You can't control how many, but you can control when and how.
Thanks, sir. So now, moving on to one of your initiatives, it's going to be jobs. So one of your initiatives is to bring jobs to San Antonio. What is your plan to ensure the current individuals in the community will be qualified for those positions whenever you're bringing in new industry?
We have to hire people back immediately. Now, we passed a workforce education and training program last November, $135 to $140 million, that will train people into other jobs that they're currently in the next 3 to 5 years. That's not workforce education and training immediately on the spot. Food and beverage, our restaurant and bar industries lost up to 40% of their employers, right? 100,000 plus jobs lost. We need to, at this point, not turn our nose up at any job that comes to San Antonio. We need to employ everybody who wants to work and get them back to work. That means taking some of our emergency fund. I don't know if people know this. The city sits on almost $130 million of an emergency fund that they simply, all they had to do was release a portion of it in the form of grants and other opportunities to get businesses hiring again. So I would freeze property taxes for commercial businesses. I would freeze their CPS energy and SAWS rates. I would help them have the money to hire back. That's what this is going to come down to. We have to put people back to work, absolutely, now. We have to help them with marketing, human resource support. We have to do everything possible to rebrand San Antonio. This I do believe. We're on the cusp of a massive comeback if we get it right from an employment perspective. We need to go out into every city in this nation and try to steal every job we can to come back to us. We shouldn't lose to Austin, Dallas, Houston continually. We should have not lost the Space Command when we're Military City, USA. So we have to completely revamp and understand that we're not going to worry so much about what job it is in so much as people are working. Pandemic response and relief now is employment and dollars in the paycheck immediately. So City Hall doesn't create one single job. What they do is create the environment for the job, or they overregulate to where the small business owner cannot hire back. You have to change that mentality in its entirety. And I think that's the passion and energy I'll bring as the next jobs mayor. Jobs will be my number one focus. You making more money, but more importantly, keeping more of the money you make. That's just as important as the job itself.
Thank you, sir. So you just hinted at the emergency fund. So transitioning over to the winter storm that we most recently experienced, what would your plan be to ensure that the San Antonio citizens do not experience another power outage or another water outage as we just had last month?
The winter storm, when you run into trials and tribulations, they can be blessings. They are blessings because they allow you to see where your opportunities are and the things you need to do better. Let's be honest, it was a failure across all levels. When you went to flip on that light switch and it didn't come on, it didn't matter what side of town you were, didn't matter the property value, the taxes you paid, the color of your skin, the language you spoke, your power did not come on. The failures of City Hall have officially affected us all. When the water didn't turn on, when you turned the knob, that is an eye-opening situation of total failure. 10 days before the storm, we knew that we were going to have 5 to 7, up to 10 inches of snow. We were going to see temperatures in the teens. I don't know about you. I've lived in San Antonio my entire life. That's catastrophic. We knew it 10 days before. We didn't stand up one warming station to protect our homeless and our seniors until 3 days into the storm. That's unconscionable. That's total leadership failure. And it wasn't just dump trucks on the roads going to answer the problems. We know San Antonio, the drivers in this community. If there's trouble and it's raining or snow, we've got to make sure we are fully prepared. So you have to be, it's not about knowing what ERCOT is doing. And I heard the mayor say that, right? Well, ERCOT, no. You can't control a collapse of the grid. Understood. What you can control is the emergency preparedness plan that is 7 to 10 years old that was never looked at. Generators not at SAWS. The CPS Energy Emergency Operations Center not stood up. We own the preparedness factor. And when the storm hit, Ron Nirenberg quit. He did not show up. And that cannot happen. And as mayor, you have to go into the community. You have to deliver food. You have to stand up and put your four-wheel drive on. Whatever it is you have to do, be there. Lead. You should have texted people to let them know their water and power was going to come off. Preparedness matters in an environment, and that leadership moment was a fail because there wasn't a playbook when a crisis hits. He had the playbook for the pandemic. Mask up, shut it down. When it came to the storm, there was nothing. So the entire council looked like they were lost. Seniors with no water and food. It was an abomination.
Thank you, sir. So now, another one of your initiatives is you truly do back the blue. And so with that being said, what is your position on Proposition B that will be on the ballot in May?
Well, look, I'm going to vote against Proposition B. I've been very clear in that. But I've learned a lesson from my loss in 2019. It's going to take all of us to do it together. I could have won in 2019. I was right there. I was 1% away. 1,300 votes, and I'm sitting in front of you for re-election. But I learned this valuable lesson. It's together the path forward, all of us at the table. I believe we must fire bad cops. Absolutely. I just do not believe the answer is through the elimination of the entire police contract. That's not the answer. So how do we get there? I don't worry about the vote on May 1st. I think they will turn it down. By the way, we're talking about 10 police officers over 10 years reinstated through arbitration. You know what I worry about? On May 2nd, the tens of thousands of young men and women of color in our judicial system and our jail system being treated like cattle. I'm worried about them not having jobs and opportunity. I'm worried about a recidivism rate that's 80% plus, that they can't get work and they just become a process and a number in a jail system that is a profitability center. That's the real problem when we talk about racial and social justice in our city. It's not the police officers. They are a portion that we can fix, and we can fire bad cops, and I will go to the ends of the earth to tell you, let's find them and get rid of them. Nobody wants a bad cop gone more than a good cop. But the problem is that's a spoke on a wheel of a massive problem we have, and that's a disrespect for people of color when they enter the judicial system. We have to own that fact. That's why I go everywhere. I step into the Black Lives Matter, the Black Freedom Factory. I'm at Stonewall Democrats. I'm at the Northwest Democrats. I'm at the Pachyderm Republican Club. Everybody has to have a seat at the table. And the hard conversation is this. We have a broken system that monetizes people. So I'm more worried about that. So May 2nd, I'm fighting, yes, to make sure we clean up a system where we have to fire bad cops. But more importantly, when those young men and women get in the system, how do we get them the heck out of it and never back in there again? That's a faith issue. That's a family issue. And I'm going to fight for that on May 2nd. And I'm going to challenge everybody in this room to join me on that, because we can do it if we're honest and hard on the conversation and say, we got problems, let's go fix it.
Thank you, sir. Now, the question that we received from the live feed, it kind of piggybacks off of that. So your campaign objectives include a public safety platform. After witnessing several unjust acts by police officers over the years, how will this initiative truly make the community safer by over-policing those high-crime areas?
We have to be careful on the over-policing word, because you have to come into a neighborhood and at some point you have to clean it up. And it's not just the police officers, by the way. It's animal care services. It's code compliance. When your neighborhood starts falling off the brink and starts falling into crime, you know what the first thing to go is? Cars parking in the garage, on the driveway or in the grass, barbecue pits out front. All things start happening when a neighborhood starts to crumble. Then you know the crime is coming. So that's why you include code compliance. Dead cars that never moved, parked out in front for years, right? Stash houses. You know your neighborhood. So code compliance has to be involved. Animal care services, the SAPD. You bring in a full range of forces to clean up and help a neighborhood with the neighborhood leadership leading the charge. Not the SAPD or these departments, not the city, the neighborhood leadership. So you come in and you've got to bring every resource to it. It's your tax dollars, you're paying for them. And once you clean it up, it's not enough just to walk away after 6 weeks. The same problems you've had in your neighborhoods for 40 years, it's been the same people leading us. If we want the change in the community, I'm here to tell you, I'm bringing that change. And my plan includes lowering the prison population. Nobody's talked about that for 50 years in this city as a mayor. Recidivism rates, making sure we understand that how do we keep people out of jail by employing them? How do we clean up neighborhoods and be respectful, and so that the people cleaning it up look like the people in those neighborhoods? You have to have trust and responsibility and go in there and make it happen for us. So I do believe the answer is not through policing. Policing is the fallback when things absolutely don't go our way. Sure, we've got to get police in there. But it's a multi-pronged approach, and I challenge you on this. You can do both. We've been sold a bill of goods on false choices. You're either pro-police or an anti-community or one or the other. I think we can do both, and I think we do it together by hard conversations and talking to each other and saying, yeah, this isn't going to work. Bad cops, you got to go. Good cops, I'm going to support you and get there. Great community leaders of any color, shape, and size, we're with you. But the mayor needs to be in those neighborhoods doing the job every single day.
Thank you, sir. That completes the 6 questions that we have for you, sir. So you're now in the minute for your closing statements.
As you could tell, I'm a firm believer in the power of persuasion and opportunity to work hard. I'll pour my heart and soul into being your mayor. We were right there in 2019, but it was not my time. It was not in God's plan for me to be there, and I understand that. And if it's His plan that I make it on, and my wife and I make it on May 1st, then it is what it is. If it's not, we're going to go on and continue serving our community. But I will pour my heart and soul into being there for you. I will be in your neighborhoods. You will not find me behind a desk at City Hall. Right? I won't be bought and paid for by the fat cats or the special interests. That has been my life forever, especially as a council member. I'm going to speak the hard truth, but our success is right in front of us. If we stop the false choices, we work together and we go to bat for what San Antonio can be. And I will be there for you in faith and family and in your neighborhood, getting ready to go to work. It will be my life's passion to serve you. And I'm going to bring that each and every day as the next mayor of the city of San Antonio. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor, for the opportunity to be here. And I am here for you no matter what. Win, lose, or draw, I'm going to be fighting for San Antonio going forward on May 1st into our future as San Antonio rebounds better than ever.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
John Valasquez, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. When I got the invitation, I felt a lot of love, and so I'm really happy to be here.
We're happy to have you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Diving right in, if elected, within your first 90 days, what will your focus be on accomplishing those missions?
Well, we need to identify the families out there that have not been rescued. There are a lot of them out there. I talk to them. In my work on the South Side, I know that a principal group most negatively affected by the pandemic are single moms. They made the hard decision that day that their children were sent home. Who's going to take care of my child? There's no one else. So I'm going to have to quit my job to make sure that I'm home with my child. That is a underserved group right now. We need to find them and give them direct assistance. I've talked to some of them and said, why don't you go onto the city site and apply? And most of them gave up because it was too cumbersome. They didn't have the documentation. And it felt kind of belittling to have to prove that I'm suffering. You know, so we have to find them because they've given up and you don't know where they are. Their children, unfortunately, didn't have the necessary resources at home. We need to make sure they have it. And unfortunately, I still hear there's a lot of children that they don't know where they are. The school districts don't know where they are. And so some have gone months, maybe a full year without any education. That's setting back children a long, long way. And we also need to increase the mental health budget if there is one. I asked the mayor once what is in the budget for mental health, and there's none.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And so transitioning to our next question, I believe your profession, you're a psychologist, correct?
I'm a psychologist, yes.
So the question comes under qualifications. Having never held a political office, what makes you qualified to become mayor of the 7th largest city in the United States?
Because I'm the only one running who knows the people of San Antonio. And here's why I say that. I have 3 jobs serving people. My main job during the day is to talk with military veterans and help them to earn their mental health disability. And what's unique about that job is not just that I know how to do it, but in the process, I'm expected to learn everything about their lives, their military service, their family life, since retirement, their thoughts, their moods, and how their family is functioning. And to date, I count over 4,000 veterans that I've talked with in this city. That's a lot of people. If you talk about science, that's a huge sample size. Also, I've been going to the South Side for the last 21, 22 years in zip code 78210, so I'm now an expert on that zip code. I've done a number of studies there. But on top of that, in that location, we have no barriers, no restrictions who can come or whether they can pay or not. So I've met people from all over San Antonio in that way. So I know people from all parts of the city. I know it's happening to them. And in my job, both working with veterans and my telehealth work that I do from home, talking to people around the state, I have met many police officers, sheriff's deputies, DPS troopers, and they've told me what their life is like. And so I have that kind of inside look on how the negotiations with the contract might go.
Thank you, sir. So now transitioning to the vaccination question. What would be your strategy in getting the people of San Antonio vaccinated as soon as possible?
Well, I need to learn more about this distribution system because it seems like it's evolving, every day. When we talk about equity, it's different than equality. Right now, the nation is still under this equality model that if we just distribute it widely, eventually everyone will get it. But really, you need to target the zip codes, the communities, and invite them in, whether that means locations within the community or making sure they get there. That would be equity, those most vulnerable. And I know that's how it started, but it's clear it's not working out that way. It's a problem with this one shoe fits all. one rule applied to everyone, that's equality, and so it's fair, and that's really not fair. We need an equity model that finds the people who need it and get it to them easily. I like the model that came out recently that said anyone over 80 needs to make no appointment, just show up to some facility and you get it. We should broaden that kind of approach, you know. Don't want to push out the seniors in that process, but find a site and show up, and we'll get you one, okay? Because obviously I've heard that in some places, by the end of the day, they haven't given out all the shots. So somehow the word is not getting out to be there, and maybe we should open it up, and if you're there and you need one, you can get one at that point.
Okay. Thank you for that answer, sir. Now, given the most recent winter storm, what would be your plan to ensure that the San Antonio people do not experience another power or water outage during severe weather?
Yeah. We need to go out there and find those houses that need retrofitting, upgrading, the new pipes, the new water systems that are there, out to the street level if we need to, and make sure that old, outdated pipes, it won't happen the next time it comes, because it will happen again. So I really like this direct giving approach, not applying for it approach. We know they're there. Why are we making people go through these hoops? Let's just go find them. You can literally walk down the street and find them. There's zip code data on where the need is greatest. Why aren't we going there first? Okay, some would say, well, that's not equal distribution. Well, we're going to save people in the process, so probably more than what we're doing now.
Okay. What would be when we're looking at Proposition B, are you for or against Proposition B, and why?
I don't have an opinion about that yet. I actually do need to read more about it. I'm a long-time supporter of unions in general, across the board. Bargaining rights is central to health and safety of persons within their union and their profession. We have this unique union, though, where lives can be at stake, you know, on a daily basis. So is it possible to amend the contract that we have now, given that the Proposition B may not pass, to include a better front entry system that focuses on mental health of applicants for the police academy? Much more can be done in that area to see the warning signs in many ways that you wouldn't see until they get into. The military has a similar process, so they make sure that the right folks come in and can handle the rigors of it. And they do a pretty good job of that. So there are ways in which you put a gatekeeper there and not just let anyone who qualifies on a test or they have no background, you know, make it more rigorous than that and really do the in-depth psychological evaluations and analysis that can be done, that I know can be done, to find where there could be some weaknesses. But it doesn't mean you throw people aside, but you help them to maybe become better applicants.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Now, for your final question that came from our feed, it kind of touches on what you were just mentioning about mental health. One of your initiatives is to bring free mental health facilities to all 4 quadrants of the city. How do you plan to fund and execute this endeavor?
Well, you may have heard that the former Mayor Castro got away with it by taking 1/8 of a penny on the tax, sales tax, and created a school system, a pre-K school system.
Correct.
And boy, it's working really well. I've talked to many moms and dads whose children are in that. The graduates are super smart. And so if we focus our attention on something that we think is important, many good things can happen. I'm trying to convince the mayor and other people in city government to put more attention on mental health. It's critical. It's like saying if you had a kidney problem and we decided, nah, we don't need to care about your kidney or anyone's kidney. That would be a pretty outrageous statement to make. And so what we're saying every day is that the brain and how we function and deal with our life stresses doesn't matter. But we all need that. We all know we all have cholesterol issues. We all know we have blood sugar issues, weight issues. And so if we can just bring into this mental health perspective that you need checkup regularly. You need to talk to your doctor. You need to talk at length at times. You can't heal a brain overnight. It takes intensive psychotherapy that I know how to do, that I've done with many people for years at a time, and I know that it works. And I've taught many of the counselors and social workers and psychologists in San Antonio, because I taught Incarnate Word for 16 years. So I know they're out there. They're really smart and capable. They're ready.
Okay. Thank you for that, sir. So that does conclude all 6 questions. You are now on the clock for a minute for any closing remarks.
Okay. Yeah, I think we have a leadership crisis in San Antonio, but also Texas and country as a whole. I have some serious questions about the way the lockdown in the beginning of the pandemic started. It hurt as many or more people than it may have saved, ironically. And maybe the motto was that we all need to be in this together and suffer together. But I'm telling you, the night that the mayor said, go home, you don't have a job, you don't have a paycheck, your children don't have a school to go to, that was a real gut punch for me. And I knew something was really wrong with that approach. There are actually mathematical models in public health that show how to get it into a pandemic a little bit smoother and in a more orderly way, and I would have used that. So not enough science is being used at the city level. It's very selective about which science is going to be used. We're not going to get healthier by making it impossible for us to get healthier. Okay, so that would be my focus, really. Let's all get healthier. We'll find out later that those who either didn't get the virus or got it and survived pretty well, it was because they were just healthier. And so we need to make San Antonio healthy.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, this concludes our question and answering session with our candidates tonight. I appreciate everyone for joining today, as well as observing this from the live stream. I hope that this has been very informative, and this is something that's going to lead us to be more active when we come to May, when it comes to our election, because like we said before, this is something that is imperative. Your politics are local, so please use your voice and cast your vote. I welcome to the stage now Reverend Timothy Major to close us out.
We'd like to thank all of the candidates who came out tonight. You helped us with your points of view on how you would help the city if you became mayor. All who are in the sanctuary, we'd like to thank you for coming out, and also to our viewing audience. We appreciate that you took time to sit down this afternoon or this evening and show an interest in the city of San Antonio. Can we stand? Gracious Father, we thank you for allowing us to have this forum. And Lord, we just thank you for each candidate who has put themselves out in front for wanting to make a difference within the city. Lord, let us go to you and pray to you that we may find someone who you believe would move this city forward. Now unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or think, according to the power that resides in us, glory be to God. We thank you. Amen.